Ladies and gentlemen, coming soon, a podcast you've all been waiting for. The movie podcast to end all movie podcasts. A podcast that discusses and critiques the best of the best and the worst of the worst movies playing at a theater near you. With a host whose opinions have been deemed as fact by your favorite fact checkers. And that's a fact. Without further ado, let me introduce you to the movie maestro, the tyrant of theater, the gumshoe of review, the man that makes theater employees and Hollywood execs shiver by his mere presence. Ladies and gentlemen, the judge, the jury, the sultan of cinema, Justin Henson. Welcome to the Movie Wire.
Welcome to this added episode of The Movie Wire. I'm your host, Justin Henson, and welcome to the show. This week has been a big film week, so I added this episode to ensure you have all the reviews to the movies that are available to watch now. I have 4 brand new films to cover from what it seems like it's a reboot and remake kind of week. This week, I will be covering another movie about a tanning bed, but this time it's a time machine in Meet Cute. Rob Zombie tackles a PG film reboot in The Munsters. The Creeper is back in his 4th return in my early review of Jeepers Creepers Reborn. And John Hamm is the new Fletch in Confess Fletch. Ready for my verdict? Let's get into it.
Out of the windows to watch a roar and a burst of flames. The Movie Wire podcast.
There it is.
Just meet people like me.
The Wire.
Sheila, a young woman grappling with suicidal thoughts, discovers that a tanning bed in a nail salon is a time machine. Traveling back 24 hours, she relives the best date night of her life over and over, only to decide that her boyfriend Gary needs some fixing. Unaware that meddling with the past could ruin the future, Sheila goes even further back in time to turn him into the perfect man.
Go say hello. Buy him a drink.
Hi, I'm Sheila.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Gary.
Can I get
Old fashioned.
Thank you. Cheers, mate.
That was kind of weird.
Oh, not really. I have got to come clean with you. I'm from the future.
Wait, I'm sorry, I'm a little confused.
So how much do you use the tanning machine?
Oh, no, it's not a tan machine. It's a time machine.
Try it. It's fun. I've spent the entire week with you. This night, 7 times in a row.
Wait, what'd you do with the other you from the past?
Do you think I'm crazy?
But it's really cute.
Okay. You ever had a night like this ever in your entire life? I just wanted to change a couple things to make you more perfect. This never happened with old Gary.
If you erase the pain, you erase the person.
What exactly did you change about me?
I have this ability to take your pain away.
It's not yours to take away, Sheila.
It came from a good place, Gary.
Yeah, so did gender reveal parties.
Started as an accident, and I fell in love with you. And this time, I am gonna make it work.
A real Sophie's Choice kind of decision now, isn't it?
I love it when you make that joke.
What?
What?
You didn't want to go somewhere more meaningful? Like, I don't know, like to kill Hitler?
Well, I did take out Smithson.
Who?
Exactly.
Now, I must have missed the memo with the trend of magical tanning beds in movies this year. We saw a magical tanning bed in Mac and Rita just a couple months ago or so, where Mac, who is 30, lays in a tanning bed and comes out a 70-year-old woman. If you haven't listened to that review, check it out on episode 29 of The Movie Wire. I started to wonder if it's just leftover prop from Mac and Rita, or at this point, is this tanning bed going to even get its own IMDb profile? And yes, I searched to see if this tanning bed is trending online, in case you were wondering, and sadly, it's not. This tanning bed is going to have to work a little harder to find a name for itself in Hollywood, but I think a magical tanning bed in multiple films deserves a name. I will call it Ted Tanning for the sake of this review. Besides Ted the Tanning Bed, the movie stars Pete Davidson as Gary, and from The Big Bang Theory, Kaylee Cuoco as Sheila. Suicidal Sheila walks into a nail salon to get her nails done before she ends her life, until June, one of the employees, introduces her to Ted Tanning. And in case you already forgot, that's just a tanning bed I named it. It's not its actual name. This is where Sheila travels back 24 hours to meet Gary. Now we have a little mix of time travel and a little bit of Groundhog Day. Meet Cute attempts a character-driven story with limited sets and focuses on our two main characters. Now let's get this out of the way. The film was not made or written by a time travel theorist, and I am not a time travel expert, but I can even tell there are countless holes in the movie's time travel logic that contradicts itself quite often, but that's okay. This isn't a film to prove the science of time travel through a simple tanning bed. Meet Cute wants to be a character-driven story. To do this, they need to first and foremost need a likable cast. Pete Davidson and Kaylee Cuoco, both whom which are very likable in this film. Next, we need chemistry. These two do bounce off of each other quite nicely, especially Davidson. His experience in improv really shines in a film like this. Pete Davidson we just saw in the surprisingly good Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. He's starting to shine with the amount of range he's trying to portray with different styles of movies he has been in recently. He has proven so far that he can carry a movie and give different versions of himself and separate from just being the awkward funny guy we saw in SNL. Meet Cute was written by Alex Lehman, whom I wish would have written this film as well. He has had a very successful film career since 2016 in creating some memorable emotional reactions, from small screen to big screen. He's responsible for such films like 2019's Paddleton to Blue Jay from 2016 to 2022's Acid Man that premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival on June 10th. Instead, we have newcomer Noga Newley with a pretty empty resume. The time-traveling relationship scenario can be easily taken to rom-com territory, but Lehman does a fantastic job when it comes to tone and style, and Newley's writing in this shows as well, and even though the avoidance of rom-com territory is successful, we are left with our main characters in the focus for the entire runtime, which means Gary and Sheila have to keep us engaged, and for the most part, they do. Where we start to falter is in the writing. First half of the movie, we have Sheila explain to Gary over and over and over again that she is a time traveler. Now, this is a first for me, where I didn't have to jump on IMDb to be reminded of the character names to ensure that I get them right, because we hear Sheila and Gary say their names to each other about 50 times during each interaction. Well, I don't know, Gary. What do you think, Gary? I'm having a great time, Gary. I'm the time traveler, Gary. Newley feels the need to address each line with repeating the character's name, which feels like every time Sheila speaks. The first interaction is cute, but it doesn't stop. It becomes so obnoxious, I am rooting against Sheila. The writing has peaks of feeling natural, but every time Newley feels the need to keep repeating the name of the character, it becomes a distraction to the relationship between the two characters. And that's a shame because she has some great concepts that are lost in translation due to the repetitiveness of lines. Meet Cute does show subtle cleverness to its basic time travel formula by integrating a relationship thesis of trying to fix things with added frustration, changes not just oneself, but both parties, especially when the other party doesn't believe you're a time traveler and can only see your pure frustrations, and the impact it does on a one-way communication in a social conflict. It acts as a metaphor in how relationships communicate. The film does have a lot of smart things going for it when it comes to keeping things basic to prove its point, but when it comes back to the ending conflict, it tends to get flustered with itself on the delivery of the messaging and gets convoluted without any context or believable transitioning, and the climax suffers for this. The characters are likable, the time travel concept is inconsistent and not believable, but Ted Tanning does a fantastic job, as he always does, as a believable tanning bed. You know, the way he tends to do all those magical things? It's amazing. This film is watchable because of the great performances and the chemistry between Kaylee Cuoco and Pete Davidson. Davidson and Cuoco seem to be trying to do their best with the writing, in which they do a fantastic job with. Our two main likability and performances of Davidson and Cuoco saved this film. I'm giving Meet Cute 2.5 stars. All right, to all my Seattle listeners, it's time for the Lake Stevens Film Festival, happening on Saturday, October 8th from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. It has a full day of films, from short films, music videos, and the feature film All Sorts, an indie darling which premiered at the Seattle International Film Festival. It will also be followed with a Q&A. This is truly a special event here in the Pacific Northwest, where the Lake Stevens Film Festival brings films and filmmakers from the Pacific Northwest together for a one-day screening and networking event. LSFF was established established to cultivate an appreciation for the arts within the Lake Stevens community and showcase diverse viewpoints for both established and emerging creators. The vision from this film festival holds dear to this little film lover's heart. It holds true to the values of filmmaking, diversity in film, inclusion, importance of creation, and respect to the vision of all creators. The festival holds the same values that I stated in the beginning of making this show. This is why I ask you that we support the Lake Stevens Film Festival and take the day to view some incredible talent and some incredible creators that will be down there as well. The event will also have food trucks, beer garden, an award ceremony at the end of the night, and thanks to the Lake Stevens Community Band, they'll be there playing some of our favorite film soundtracks. Day pass tickets range from $15 to $25, but you can use my promo code MovieWire to receive 20% off admission. Just go to www.lakestevensfilmfestival.com to purchase tickets and get more information. I will also put the link in the description of this episode. Don't miss it, Seattle. We'll see you at the movies. In Jeepers Creepers Reborn, Lainey, played by Sydney Craven, travels with her boyfriend Chase, played by Imran Adams, to a horror convention when Lainey begins to experience premonitions associated with the urban myth of the Creeper. She believes that something supernatural has been summoned, and she is at the center of it all.
You ever heard of the Creeper?
A local legend, right?
The Creeper comes back every 23 years.
Then what? Can't believe I let you drag me to this.
This is the Coachella of cosplay.
It is time for our Reaper draw! Our grand prize is an escape room for two. Creeper theme.
Come on, you two.
Are you sure this is where we're supposed to be?
We'll be out there in no time.
What the hell is that?
It's coming. It's a trap. Let's go!
There's no way out.
Come on!
It's coming.
The Creeper is back. That is supposed to be a separate entry into this world of our Creeper, with hopes to reinvigorate the Creeper franchise. This was meant to be the first of our future planned movie follow-ups. God, let's hope not. Jeepers Creepers Reborn has had some special screenings before it hits streaming platforms next month. After the release of Jeepers Creepers 3 and the lukewarm reception, mainly because it wasn't very good in the first place, it was a sign this version of the Creeper had overstayed its welcome. The studio had milked it dry with the decline of creative ideas. The premise of the Creeper is an interesting one with a good urban legend feel to it. That's what made the original a decent watch, was the mystery to the creature's origin and how the filmmakers don't give us a lot of information to make judgment of the creature fully. After the third installment, with such a good premise and potential from the concept of the Creeper, it was almost a sure thing that the studio wasn't going to let the Creeper die out in cinema, but rather do what most studios do, and that is to attempt to reboot the franchise. My curiosity and hope was that Jeepers Creepers Reborn would re-energize the franchise and utilize the creative topic of the urban legend, give a different and unique creative vision of the material. Walking out of the viewing, I felt cheated. This is not a re-imaging of the franchise. This is what it really is, and I'll call it as I see it. It's, hey, our movie is way shittier than the last three, so let's market this as a re-imaging and reboot to see if we can cash in. This is not a reboot. This is Jeepers Creepers 4. The filmmakers didn't bring anything new to the table. The story, you wouldn't be able to tell if it's a reboot. The Creeper is more of the same, only even more cheaply made than number 3. The filmmakers knew what they were creating, and the studio's marketing knows how they were going to market their crappy movie, which is a shame because the film had a good premise, going into a horror convention with knowledge of an urban legend. There's an escape room involved. There are elements in the film that had potential of doing something creative with it. Writer Sean Michael Argo, who is responsible for masterpieces such as Fable, Teeth of Beast, Red Scream Vampires, and Ember Days, which all of the cover art to these films look like a softcore porn video that you would find in the back of a video store. Argo's previous work, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, but Jeepers Creepers 4 is way too advanced for the type of work that he has done in the past. He is in way over his head with Jeepers Creepers 4, and I'm not giving that a compliment. Now, I'll give Argo some credit here. There are no erotic women in erotic costumes in unbelievable sexual situations except for one. So I am glad to see Sean Michael Argo is learning and growing as a filmmaker. So that's a positive we can take out of this. Way to go, Argo. The one thing I did know going into this film is that it was directed by Timo Vorensila, who directed the underrated, clever, high-end B movie Iron Sky and Iron Sky Coming Race. He turned a low-budget, challenging, ridiculous film into something that was actually visually pleasing. Without the proper direction in those films, the film would have been yet another really bargain basement movie. But his direction turned those films into something to experience. So this one had my hopes up just a little bit that we're going to see something a little different. But again, a letdown. The film just looks extremely cheap. The cast overacts. It's exactly what we would expect from a straight-to-streaming or digital horror movie. We don't have any great acting here. We don't have a good-looking scary villain. Is the movie suspenseful, though? Is it scary? Is it entertaining? The answer to all of the above is a big, fat no. The Creeper is laughable. The situations of the Creeper puts our cast through, we can care less about. And when it comes to the entertainment value, I will give the movie this. The first act, when we get Lainey and Chase introductions, those are okay and likable. But it starts to go completely downhill when we get the stereotypical gas station attendant that acts overly creepy. Jeepers Creepers Reborn can't even revision the gas station clerk that always gives the audience a red flag of danger and have been telling teenagers that they're probably gonna die since the 1970s. Congratulations on your 52-year anniversary, creepy gas station clerk. It's been a journey, and I think it's time to rest and retire. A word of warning. Don't be tricked into the marketing of this film, where it is an obvious attempt at dressing up a trash can in a new suit and tie. The marketing is so misleading, I felt that I was walking out of an Amway meeting and a timeshare presentation all at the same time. This is not a reboot. This is not a revision. This is f***ing Jeepers Creepers 4 with a $100 budget. I'm giving Jeepers Creepers Reborn 1 star. Before we get into the rest of the show, don't forget to check out my reviews for movies that just hit streaming and are available to rent or buy now, including Top Gun Maverick, Bodies, 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 Where the Crawdads Sing, Nope, and Beast. You can find those reviews on my previous episodes, and just a reminder, if you haven't yet, make sure you hit follow or subscribe and leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I'd greatly appreciate it. And make sure you follow me on Instagram and Twitter at MovieWireShow. Now let's hear from my favorite cooks and murder experts over at the Sugar Coated Murders.
Hey, Ann Barner. Hey, Karen Beatty. We need a promo. You know, like where we talk about what we do on our podcast.
On our Sugar Coated Murder podcast? Like how we love to bake and talk about murder?
That's what we need to talk about.
There you go.
I think we've talked about it. Y'all find us on all your favorite listening apps.
Stay sweet.
And don't murder.
Because if you kill people,
we will talk about you.
Confess Fletch. Now here is a re-imaging and a real reboot. We find Fletch, our witty ex-investigative reporter, in a new situation after becoming the prime suspect in multiple murders. Fletch tries to prove his innocence while at the same time searching for his fiance's stolen art collection.
Hi, Frank.
Where are you right now?
None of your business.
Come on, Fletch. Aren't you bored? I need you for a story. I got that police report you wanted. I just emailed it to you. It's encrypted.
What's the password?
Go F yourself.
My father's paintings were stolen. The Picasso was appraised at $20 million.
Well, that hardly seems worth stealing.
You're not a detective.
But I was an investigative reporter. It's an occupation that's been cheapened by the digital age, like president.
Earl Maurice Fletcher?
They caught me in the middle of a yawn. Can you imagine that?
Who killed this young woman?
I think the victim interrupted an art theft.
Your fingerprints are on the murder weapon, and someone matching your description was seen with the victim. Come back with me to police headquarters.
I get it. You want my help? Okay. Hey, guys, is there a way we can call in a coffee order? I'd kill for a macchiato. Not literally.
I looked into your criminal record.
And?
You're a bit of a shady character, Mr. Fletcher.
But I am adorable.
If you did kill that girl, do the right thing and give me an exclusive.
Let's talk about the suspects.
The Countess de Grazia married Papa for his money. Somehow she's involved.
Fletch, she's trying to seduce me.
Quite the collection of impressionists you have. Those are reproductions. That's how I introduce my children. Why did you lie to me?
You're becoming paranoid. Maybe you should get a gun.
Did you murder that girl? Okay.
Oh, no, I didn't. Did you?
What is this? Woodburn and Bernstein?
Almost.
This stupid idiot moron has something to do with this.
You want me on the outside so I can solve this thing. Are you Fletcher? Yes, I am. Oh! I mean, no, I'm not. I always get that wrong.
I don't know who people hate more, cops or reporters.
It's cops.
Available in select theaters and is available to rent or buy now on your certain streaming platforms. It's been 33 years since we saw Chevy Chase play Fletch in Fletch Lives in 1989, and 37 years since we saw the original Fletch. And now we have Jon Hamm take on the mantle from Chevy Chase. Now, Fletch holds a dear place in my heart from 80s movies that I grew up with. I loved the original Fletch movies, and I felt that was the perfect role for Chevy Chase and his persona. When the announcement of the remake came to light starring Jon Hamm, I was not sold. No disrespect to Jon Hamm. I think he's a talented actor, but taking over from one of my go-to comedies from the 80s, it's a hard order to fill. Deep down, I wanted to see one of my favorite Chevy Chase characters back. I wanted to have that feeling of watching Fletch again. But at the same time, I wanted to see a new spin on the classic character. Some of us will feel the same. Some of us didn't like the original Fletch. Some of us are visiting Fletch for the first time. This is a tricky balance for writers Zev Barrow and writer-director Greg Mottola. Now, this is Barrow's first major written release with his resume full of TV shows and episodes. So teaming up with Greg Mottola, who has done some memorable films such as the hit Superbad from 2007, Adventureland, and 2011's alien comedy Paul. Confess Fletch is determined in its efforts to appease a vast majority of the audience that will view Fletch. And safe to say, it succeeds mostly in appeasing an entire audience. This is the type of film that almost requires two writers with so much of the vast audience to reach. But with such a challenging task, teamwork must make the tedious film work. Mottola and Barrow do something special with the material. You don't have to have seen the original films. You don't have to be a fan of the original. And most importantly, it still will please returning Fletch fans. The writing does a fantastic job at creating the vibe of Fletch with some room for Jon Hamm to grow with it and add his own spin on things based on his own version of the character. Now, when it comes to Hamm, he doesn't use the material to just step and squash the previous version, but he gives subtle hints from the source material to give us that Fletch feeling. But at the same time, adds his own version without completely changing the character. My concern with Hamm being cast is that in his previous works, even though he's a great actor, he has played some pretty stiff characters, and at times it's hard to read in some of his roles, and was certainly a bold and ballsy choice to lead a film like this. As I was watching the movie, I corrected myself. I thought, actually, what a brilliant choice of a character to give to Hamm. It's a perfect balance of uncertainty of likability to the character and has just enough of seriousness to the role to have the audience take him seriously. The film succeeds in all of my concerns at first glance, but that's not to say the film is perfect. It is not. It appreciates the focus on the characters and ensuring it gets that right. But there is a missed opportunity when it comes to the mystery of the story. They leave too much of a focus on the characters and lacks too much when it comes to the actual complexity of the mystery. The movie tends to stick to a simplistic mystery that plays like a Sesame Street version of the whodunit formula, with a climax that feels unsatisfying and rushed. But confess Fletch banks on the characters in this reboot and really goes all in when it comes to the talent involved. It makes this film very entertaining, very watchable, and just because of the talent, subtle sarcastic comedy, and the brisk pacing, it ensures that there is never a dull moment. Jon Hamm does a fantastic job on respecting the character of Fletch by making the character his own. The likability and execution on the material in this film outweighs the faults in the plot. I'm giving Confess Fletch 3 stars. It gets so hard to keep track and even have time to read all the trending topics on the web. Now there's a new app to help with all of those problems. Newsly is an audio app for iOS and Android. It picks up web articles about the most trending topics on the web at any given moment and reads them to you in a natural human voice. For the first time in the history of the internet, the entire web becomes listenable. Browse articles from topics you choose and start playing. You can follow any topic as specific as you like, from sports, science, to Bitcoin. You can even follow Kardashian. It will find you the latest articles and read them to you out loud. And guess what? They have podcasts as well. Explore trending podcasts from over 50 countries. The Movie Wire is now a featured podcast on the Newsly app. Download and use Newsly for free now. The link will be in the description of this episode. You can also use one of my promo codes that you will find in the description as well to get you a 1-month free premium subscription. Stop scrolling, start listening, download Newsly today. Rob Zombie tries something a little different in his filmmaking career with this movie reboot of the 1964 sitcom The Munsters. The Munsters follows the origin of the Munster family and how Herman and Lily met and moved from Transylvania to the suburbs.
The back!
I knew the moment I laid eyes on you that you were special.
Well, hello.
Would you like to come over for dinner one night?
Please hold.
He's got a date!
It seems Miss Lily is truly in love.
Oh, Hermie.
Hey! Numbskull! When they made me, they broke the mold! With you in it, I presume! No! I think it was out by that point!
We gotta get rid of that bozo Herman Munster. He's not the type of person I want my Lily with. Is that what I think it is?
Yes, it is.
Now, first reaction. What in the living hell did I just witness on screen? Now, I have been a fan of Rob Zombie in certain aspects of his vision of filmmaking. The way he knows how to make one feel after walking out of one of his movies, but not utilizing just visual but uncomfortable characters and dialogue. Zombie has a skill that invades our comfort zone fears and making us feel unclean after walking out of one of his movies. His films have a way of just ruining our day. His new film comes from, again, a family-friendly sitcom. And when it was first announced, my curiosity was in overdrive on what he was going to bring to the table with this material. And I pondered, will this be a rated R adult reboot? These characters are a perfect vehicle to create something unique and special with his skill of making an audience squirm. What a brilliant premise this is what I said when they announced this reboot with Rob Zombie. And finally, a reboot that has some balls to take some chances is what I was hoping for, but not what I got. Rob Zombie does do something unique with this reboot. Instead of checking all the boxes, he unchecks all the boxes when it comes to creativity, smart writing, good story, pacing, and an actual point. Now let's take Rob Zombie's name out of this picture, and let's just pretend it was just another generic, straight-to-streaming reboot with some unfamiliar talent. That would have made more sense to me, given some of the trashy things we've had on streaming lately, and it would have made sense of why this film was such a disaster. But the fact Rob Zombie is attached to this movie makes me first and foremost disappointed at the complete misfire of opportunity of what he could have and should have done with the material. But mostly it makes me extremely confused on why the production went in the direction of a PG film with Rob Zombie's name attached to it. The Munsters almost tries to bring zombie style and create a Tim Burton-esque sense of lightning in a bottle, but going the way of a PG rating and playing it safe with the material with hopes that Rob Zombie will bring an eye-catching spectacle to make up for the lack of point to this movie, which at times the visuals can be basic but pleasing depending on the scene, but there are so many inconsistencies from scene to scene. Like there was a bunch of different versions of the film and it was cut and pasted with different tone changes during the editing process. The visuals are nothing eye-popping and they don't have the cool factor to it. The effects mainly come from basic lighting and the lighting placement. It reminded me of walking into a club where the lighting is so elaborate and overdone to simulate an experience and the idea of having fun. Then all of a sudden, all the normal lights come on and the specialty lights turn off and we are staring at the reality of how ugly things are. I can recognize and appreciate the Zombie who did write the screenplay in this. He wanted to stay close to the source material as he possibly could, and you can tell he has a love of the original sitcom. His fanboy vision shines through his work, and there is nothing wrong with loving the source material, but there is a difference in movies between loving the source material in your work and respecting the source material in your work. It is so over the top, in your face, like Zombie wants you to know how much he likes the Munsters. The filmmakers forget that this material is from 1960s, and it's very uncertain what Zombie is trying to go after, if it's trying to be a sparse or a spoof of itself, or it's actually trying to convince us that this is actually funny. The film is full of cringy jokes that 99% of the time fall flat, with a couple of exceptions. First and foremost, Herman Munster, played by Jeff Daniel Phillips, is the only character in the film that justifies his character's cringiness, a bad joke. Phillips does a decent job in knowing how cringy the material is. He keeps his cool and subtlety, and doesn't get carried away with the character. Another subtle performance is by Daniel Roebuck, who plays Grandpa, or the Count, who doesn't go over the top of the material either. And there's a scene in the film where I actually really enjoyed, though only being about 5 minutes long. It's the only scene that made me laugh, where Grandpa is creating a spell to create a perfect husband for Lily, and instead he creates a dancing cowboy monkey. I want to say it's a good nod to the original show, but I can't. The whole movie runs like an extended episode of the show that goes absolutely nowhere. Halfway through the movie, I looked at the time and I still had no idea where this story was going. It was like watching multiple episodes of the show pinned together, and an hour in, there isn't a clear direction where this movie wants to go. It's like a bunch of friends just decided, hey, let's make a Munsters movie on our own, and just ended up shooting scenes. I thought to myself, there is still hope. We're only at the halfway mark. It's not too late to salvage this film. The second half yet better than the first, but that's not saying much. This movie goes absolutely nowhere. I have yet to understand who this movie is for. There's not enough here for kids to enjoy, maybe too much for kids to get a little creeped out. This film won't make people go research the show and revisit the show. This film was meant for those that love the original show and want to see an extended episode. That explains how the Munsters came to be. And even with that, it's not interesting. By the time the credits roll, it looks like an unfinished movie that ran out of film. There was already an attempted remake of the Munsters with 2012's NBC's attempted TV show reboot entitled Mockingbird Lane, in which was an interesting premise, and the pilot wasn't too shabby, and it does pique your interest a little more. Sadly, the pilot wasn't picked up, but the pilot is also available to watch online, and I'd rather see that 100 times over to sit through this movie again. It had a sense of style, unique comedy, and it made it relevant to the current times just enough to encourage audiences to watch the original show. It took some risks. This is a film that had my hopes up that the filmmakers wanted to take it to a whole new vision, but even at an attempt at a PG film, I am even more confused on what the filmmakers are trying to do. I think they are just as confused as we are. The Munsters is an ugly film, but not in the fashion that we are used to with Zombie's talent, which is intentional to make us uncomfortable, but rather we just get a really, really, really bad, ugly movie with horrible, cheap-looking effects that will make us want to go to the local villagers together, light some torches, and burn our TVs to the ground. The Munsters is by far one of the worst movies of the year. I'm giving The Munsters half a star. And that's a cut on this week's edition of The Movie Wire. Again, thank you all for listening, and thank you for your support. You can also show support by following me on Instagram and Twitter and leaving me a review. Until next week, do me a favor, make sure you stay for after the credits to show support for those that put their blood, sweat, and tears into making a feature film, and make sure you support your local movie theaters.
A verdict has been made on this episode of The Movie Wire by your host, Justin Henson. He thanks you for listening to the show. You can follow Justin on Instagram and Twitter at MovieWireShow, or visit his website, www.themoviewire.com. Oh, and don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I'm sure he'd love to hear from you. Until next time, we will see you at the movies.
Thank you for bringing me to the movies.